Our passion is for the future.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name's Unsound. I'm here with Roxtytan and Dash, both players on Ignite's Echo Arena team. We're going to be sitting down today. We're going to be talking about early Echo, the competitive scene, what the game was like, and the differences from then and today. So, how's your guys' day going?
Pretty good. I'm just tired from working out.
Feel that. What about you, Rox?
Yeah, I'm chilling. First day with school. It's just online still, so it hasn't been too bad, but just chilling.
Yeah, besides that, I guess we'll just jump right into it. First question is, how and when did you find Echo? Because obviously you're both really early players. You found it very early into the cycle. So, yeah, how and when?
I found the game on the Oculus Store when I got CV1. That was way back when. And I actually didn't play it that much at the beginning because I had really, really bad internet. So, my internet was so bad, I was playing a game of my own, and I was scoring the disc, and people were still playing, and I'd already scored the disc. And so 15 seconds later, they realized I scored the disc, and they were confused as hell. So at the beginning, I actually didn't play a lot because of that terrible desync. But yeah, that was one of my first experience in Echo.
And when was that?
Oh, I mean, that was end of beta. What was that year? Is that
Summer 2017?
Yeah, wow. It's been that long.
That was a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah. What about you, Rox?
I started a little bit later, didn't get quite in at the beta. I got my Oculus, I think, beginning middle October 2017, and started by the end of the month. I think I played 2 or 3 weeks before the Chronos update. I got to level 30 when that came out.
Oh, I see. Was it for you guys? Was Echo? I know, from Dash's answer, maybe not, but was Echo an instant love kind of thing for you guys, or was it something that developed over time? Your love for the game.
I think for me, like you said, it took a bit because I had such a awkward experience at first. I never really got to play the game truly at the beginning, and then after hearing the quick announcement of ESL is going to be hosting tournaments, then I started to take the game more seriously, and now more I play, the better internet I got. After I got the good internet, then that's when the game started clicking for me. I started really feeling like I belonged in this game.
How'd you end up fixing the internet problem?
I just got a different provider.
Oh, okay. That's one way to do it, I guess. What about you, Rox?
Yeah, I think I pretty much fell in love instantly. Echo wasn't the reason I got my headset, but I got it and I decided to just look through all the free games in the store, and Echo was the one that after I tried, I remember what they were at the time. It was the Undead gallery shooter game. What the hell was that called? Dead and Buried. Dead and Buried. I played that first, and then Echo was the second one, and I never tried. I remember there's a third game I downloaded too at the same time. I never even got to it because I just stuck with Echo.
Nice. So have either of you played any game regularly besides Echo in VR?
I believe the only other game that I played as much as I played Echo, that's still a large stretch. Obviously, I played Echo a lot longer, but Orbis, when that came out, I'm a huge MMORPG fan. So hearing that Orbis was one of the first MMORPGs going into the VR scene, I grinded that game a lot. But after a while, I kind of just stuck to Echo.
And what about you, Rox? No other really besides the one you had mentioned.
Besides Echo, the only game that I've picked up consistently has been Poker Stars. Other than that, it's just been a new game comes out, or a couple friends want to get a new game or something. We play it for a couple weeks and then drop it. Poker Stars is the only one that I think I've returned to besides Echo.
I feel like a lot of people from the Echo community play Poker Stars. Anyways, so let's get into the actual early Echo questions now. So, being older players, playing basically at the start of ESL, what was the early competitive scene like compared to today's?
Well, I'm sure everybody knows it, but back then there was 3v3, so we were just figuring out the game, and it was not as chain heavy, chain meta as it is these days. It was all about like the passing and more like just juking around the blocks and almost like ducking, not too much into that whole like moving in the airspace meta just yet. Really, passing was kind of an odd thing. I think the first team to actually pass was Fangasms. They were my first matchup. Fangasms was Simeon. Guygasm, was it Speedy as the third?
Speedy, yeah.
Speedy it was, yeah. I remember playing them in my first ESL match, and they were passing, and it was like unheard of. Because then you know the other side of the coin, which was Eclipse, and they were just so fast with the initial joust that they just got into the ceiling and pretty much just marched it in.
Yeah.
So it was two different like play styles that were already going on. And then Jax, of course, which was the top EU team at the time, was just like long shots, long shots, long shots. Like that was like the EU strat from the beginning. So it was definitely tough at the beginning for me because everybody was just so like they were just mechanically better at the time, and that's all it really took to beat at the top.
That's interesting. So, would you say, like, when do you think the game became more like oriented around game sense and having the knowledge, the Echo IQ, planned things?
To me, it was probably the Kronos update because that's whenever they started going into the defender's advantage, and you got scored on. You got the disc instead of the initial joust, which is like in the middle every single time. So a lot of teams that weren't confident in their joust would immediately set up on defense. So teams like Eclipse that were just faster, they would have like 100% possession time because they were just there. So as soon as that Kronos update came out and they started having like the defenders or like offense advantage, that's whenever I felt like the game was starting to evolve and you had different rollouts. Possession time was divided. You had more time to just do things. And that was like more of like whenever the man-to-man defense meta started coming through. Not really clear and boost, more just clear because everybody was covered. You had no choice other than to clear or shoot it from like half court or beyond.
It's interesting to see like how the gameplay style evolved over time. What about you, Rox? How would you say the early competitive scene is compared to today's?
Yeah, it definitely is pretty much not comparable at all. Early on, like Dash said, like before Kronos, it was just joust, and then whoever won the joust just got to walk it down the field and score, and like maybe the goalie would save it, but it was basically just a drag racing simulator. And but once the Kronos came out, obviously people did rollouts. Everybody would always just split, and then you'd clear through the middle, and then you basically just try to juke your guy in tunnel. And that was it. And if you juiced your guy in tunnel, you got to the clear and scored. And if you didn't, then you'd actually play the game. And I don't know. It's like slowly evolved over time. It's been really cool to watch it change from it feels so like simple looking back on it, but it was like that was what you did. That was just how you played the game. That was what people were good at. And so yeah, I don't know. I'm glad it's here now.
Oh, so you would say you enjoy like the style of gameplay that we're at now compared to the style of gameplay that like in those early days?
100%. Back then, like it wasn't like unfun. Obviously, it was still like a ton of fun. Echo's always been fun, but it's a lot cooler now having like the strategic depth, having like the decision makings, and be able to have those discussions. Besides, like back in the day, the discussions that we'd have about meta weren't like anything near what they are now. Instead, it was just like, what is the fastest way to joust, basically. Like there were like the heated discussions and the hidden tactics were like, how does your team roll out? How does your team pull? And like the Eclipse, like especially like their weird joust thing that they used to do that made them unique and made them faster and better than everybody else.
Yeah, the next question is, what's something from the early days of Echo that you wish was still a thing, whether that be like like a person, someone that left the scene, or like something in the game, or something in the comp scene?
Shiny was an original member of Season 1 ESL Eclipse. And of course, after he won the season, he took off on his own gaming career. I believe the first game, was it Apex? Because Apex had just come out. Was it the first game he took off on?
From my knowledge,
I
I
think
think so.
He was Overwatch before he was
Oh yeah,
Echo.
he played for
That's
CLG.
right. He was Overwatch.
He played for CLG,
Yeah.
and then CLG like got to play Echo early, so then he played Echo.
Yeah, so he was already like taking off on his gaming career, and I just felt like, wow, that was like a huge piece of like, I don't know, almost like an Echo history that like just left and never ever came back actually. But I mean, congrats to him, he's doing well. But I just felt like that was like a piece of knowledge that nobody really remembers. Like nobody really remembers Shiny. They just remember Lemming because he's still relevant in the VR scene, not in Echo, but in the VR scene for sure. And Simeon, who everybody remembers from ESL's 1, 2, and even all the way to what was it, season 3 ESL.
Yeah, he
Played
made
it
it
quite
far
a
in season
while.
3, so.
Boop maybe. I feel like Boop. I mean, he played longer, but I
He's
feel
still
like he's
around. He still
slowly.
plays.
Yeah, he still plays, but I feel like he's not as prominent in the scene as he used to be. It was always like Boop, Boop. That was like a hot topic.
Well, yeah, because back in the day, like you said, EU was only known for their long shots, and specifically
Yeah.
because Boop was like the only person in the entire game that you could like give him the disc at half court, and he was like probably going in. And that was like not a thing that anybody else could do or even thought about trying to do. So it was really like cool at the time. Well, that's just the effect of the quest. Like everything changed once like the quest port came out. Because the community just got so much bigger, even just overnight. Like I don't know. I think one of the things I missed the most from pre-quest was like the I don't know. I don't want to say like code of honor as if like everybody's just like being grimy now. But back in the day, like if people didn't like how you played, like if you were kind of like a slimy player, like exploity, whatever. Instead of like nowadays where like people like argue about it and get into fights and rules get made and stuff. If you were like a kind of player like that, like people didn't want to be, you were pushing the gray areas. People just didn't play with you. You just didn't get any scrims. You didn't get any teams, and you're basically just like you could basically just get effectively booted from the comp community just because like it was so small that you could just like everybody was just blacklisted you, and like 4 teams blacklist you. That's basically everybody.
It's got to be 99% bigger than it was back then. I've heard it was so unbelievably small that like everybody playing you knew.
Yeah, absolutely. You just get into a pub. Like every pub nowadays is like one of the most like one of the 1,000 superstar pubs nowadays. Like back in the day, you'd get into a pub, you'd know everybody. You'd have your team would be on your team, and you weren't even queued with them.
Yeah, which at the beginning, if you remember Rox, I don't know if you played around that time, but parties didn't exist. Like the party system, like
Yeah.
ESL was around the corner, and we couldn't make parties. We couldn't make private matches, so you just had to queue up at the same time and hope that you got on with your team so you could practice.
Somehow Eclipse still like practice their fucking jousting.
Somehow, yeah.
Everybody knew everybody. You'd like every lobby you join into, there'd be probably like an actual conversation going on that you could just join into. People talking about their lives and their work or Echo or whatever. It's just like I don't know. It felt actually like a group of friends basically.
Yeah, nice. So my next question is, so, Echo's seen a good bit of super teams. So we had Eclipse season 1, season 2, for a couple, 2 years, 2.5 years, and then Kango for season 3 ESL for about 1.5 years, and then going into like Illuminati, and then now Joker/Ignite. My question for that is, like, being around for so long, how do you think the idea and the concept of super teams has developed over that period of time? Like, do you think they're more prominent and more people want them to be a thing now, or like just what do people think of them relative to how they thought of them back then?
So at the beginning, it was Eclipse and Jax for sure. Eclipse for NA and Jax for EU. They were just dominating every single game, and like any team that wins too much, you eventually have people who just say, "Yeah, okay, it's about time that you lost," and that's just how super teams go. So like Eclipse, they were winning. They won. For ESL, they won like, let's see, they had the regional LAN, season 1 LAN, the Leicester LAN, and season 2 LAN. So they won 4 LANs in a row. And then of course right behind them was the iteration of Jax. Slowly changed over time, but it was pretty much the same team, like Boop and the guys. So everybody wanted those two teams to lose, and more specifically, they wanted Eclipse to lose. Everybody wanted Jax to win. I remember that for every LAN event that we went to, I was always rooting for Jax. And when Kangos finally came back into the scene, because they disappeared for about a season, they were automatically the favorites. I think if Kangos had continued winning and Joker hadn't taken, or Illuminati was the first one, but then it was Joker shortly after. If Kangos kept on winning, then we would have seen the same Eclipse situation where, okay, it's eventually it's time for you to lose. And, now we're in the Joker phase where it was the Joker phase of all right, Joker needs to lose. And it was Ignite, all right, Ignite needs to lose. And then we did. So now we see Instinct, and Instinct could be the next super team that if they kept on winning, they would see themselves in the exact same situation that Eclipse saw them.
Yeah. I don't. Me personally, I hadn't thought about Jax as another one. Because when people think back, then they just think Eclipse. Eclipse was, if you even know about that being a new player, Eclipse was just the best. I don't think a lot of people give recognition to Jax in the EU scene. But yeah. What about you, Rox?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely made for an interesting community dynamic because even like Dash said, NA players were rooting for the EU teams because Eclipse was, not only were they the best by not even close, but they were also and Simi and Lemming especially were pretty cocky about it. So it was it's kind of fun to root against them and have them really playing the antagonist. Whether they were playing the actor actually thought that, you can decide for yourself, but it was really cool to have that. In terms of dynasties in general, or super teams in general, I kind of like that because it makes it so that you can kind of look back on the game and the history as this is when this is the era of Eclipse, this is the era of Ignite or Joker or whatever, and look at it that way. I also think it helps kind of push the game forward in terms of meta. Nobody would be talking about stuff like PE and whatever if it wasn't for Eclipse, because Eclipse was the first team they weren't jousting off they were still using the ring, but they were trying different joust techniques and different stuff that necessitated people to try other stuff to beat them, and that's where PE came from originally.
Do you think there are multiple concepts and mechanics like that besides just PE that other super teams and other teams have had to evolve and adapt into to beat these super teams?
100%. I think playing Upside Down, Lemming and Simeon were the only two people who would ever play Upside Down. There was 0 EU players who played Upside Down, or even with pitch and roll enabled. And then obviously Lemming played exclusively Upside Down. Gangorillas eventually, once they kind of took over, they had certain plays where all their members would come out Upside Down and they would roll forward like that. So being able to dynamically switch your players like that and being able to actually use all your movement options is definitely something that came to be because of those teams. I think I mean, it's a little bit harder nowadays because now things are getting more and more complicated. The meta isn't so simple as that. But stuff like double chain and specifically QB chaining is something that rose up really recently because of the success that Joker/Ignite has had with it.
Yeah. So I mean, in that case, most of the meta changes in the game are a result of super teams being so dominant?
I think they have to be. There's no reason for people to try and come up with new strategies and new techniques if there's nothing to do, you know? That's one of the hard parts about being a super team, is that it's hard to know what to improve when you can try 3 different strategies and they all work.
So for the longest time, I felt like Rock said, we had a strat and that's kind of what we settled into. Now, if there was a certain gimmick or trick that we knew would work, of course we wouldn't continuously do it in scrims and whatnot. We would keep it as a card to play. But our basic rollout, that we still use, today even, and last season it was still dominantly used right before we shift into that chain QB. It wasn't really countered that hard, so we were just like, wow, why change? It's kind of very similar to what Rock said. Waiting until somebody found a hard counter to our plays before we started to evolve the meta, if you will.
Interesting. I mean, that's not something I would have guessed people would do. I mean, I don't think of it that hard where it's like, we don't want to do this because then they'll get practice. I mean, in my eyes, it's just win the scrim to win the scrim, but it makes sense on why you did it, and it's smart. Going back to the early days of Echo, what's being players that were playing during this time period, why did ESL and Echo Arena split up after season 3?
Some disconnects with ESL and the community. Every season, there was always a new ESL staff or overseer for Oculus Esports. So, as you well know, or might know, at the beginning we were Oculus, right? Right before Rad was, bought by Oculus, and then of course Oculus bought by Meta or Facebook, and then Facebook turned into Meta. Oculus was funding alongside Intel the ESL scene. So after I believe 1 season and a half-ish, Intel left the scene. So it was solely Oculus that was funding ESL. But with all this disconnect with the community, we felt like we weren't being heard. Like every time that they got something right, the staff would leave, move to a different project. It'd be a new team managing the VR scene. And we would have the same issues over and over again with a new person. Like the repeating issues is like they weren't learning, or at least like people weren't leaving a good infrastructure behind or notes so that they would know, hey, you guys, this is how you treat a VR game. It's very different from how you treat a game like, CSGO or Overwatch. Like the structure is different. So, 3 seasons went by and we felt like we weren't getting anywhere. And in comes more community-based leagues. So you started seeing leagues like Beer League, Pizza League. These leagues where we felt like we were in control, like the rules we made, decisions we made were more fair, more just, and cared about the community more. And then came VRML, who said, hey, your Pizza League, this looks like a great idea. We also run community leagues. You should come join us. And this whenever Whit and I, who were head of Pizza League, handed it over to VRML. And Oculus came to us and said, hey guys, ESL wants a meeting. So we gathered people like, I forget his username in Oculus, but we had David Y in there, Rad David, me, Pally, Kit, who was our ESL manager at the time, Jason, I believe was his name.
Jason Kaplan. There's a couple of EU people. I know all the EU people who were there because it was an OC6 were there. So it was like Tutorial Bot, Nada, I think, maybe one more.
Nada was in that.
Then there was a couple Beer League dudes as well, because that was kind of the biggest community-grown league at the time. I don't remember exactly who the reps were for that, but it was basically just a bunch of people from like all the existing like large parts of the community. They got together, had sort of like a roundtable conference, decided what was. I didn't go, but I think Dash, you were there.
I was there. Yeah, when we got into the meeting with the ESL and Oculus, and we just stated our I guess our woes, our issues, and ESL couldn't really promise that things were going to be better. So that's how we split. David Y said, all right, this doesn't seem like it's going to work out. And that's how Oculus cut out ESL. And we started shifting to the community scene with VRML. And now we've gone to VRML for a couple seasons now. And now we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, I think the general consensus at the time was just that like Echo felt like a stepping stone within ESL's larger infrastructure, where like you'd get hired in like as a new hire, you'd work with Echo for like a season, and then if you did good, then like you'd get moved somewhere else and there'd be somebody new in. So like Dash said, nothing was ever actually improving really. Tickets were slow. The lands were very poorly managed. I'm sure maybe you've heard some of the horror stories of like,
yeah,
I don't think we had a single land where like there wasn't a problem. Besides, I think maybe the regional lands were pretty good.
The
But
regional lands worked well, but there was even incidents where they suffocated the PCs under the stage. It was probably the most infamous of LAN disasters.
No cooling, swapping the PCs, turning on a bunch of lights and stuff so the sensors didn't work. Whole bunch of stuff.
That was at Katowice, the first IEM.
Flashing lights everywhere.
Yeah, basically all the IR ruined the sensors, and they had to play in a room that was like pretty much isolated. Nobody was able to watch, so it was kind of a big bummer because it felt like we were just playing in like a studio room rather than a stage. As well as there's another infamous one where they switched the good PCs out for some rather bad PCs right before game time. So that was like, what?
Yeah, they tested the PCs with, I think it was like 1080s in them, which was like the best card at the time. And then they like swapped them for 1060s because it was like Onward preferred, I don't remember what exactly it was, but basically Onward preferred a different PC setup. It was like more focused towards like CPU quality, and then Echo was more GPU or whatever it was. I forget the exact details, but basically we both had like different setup specs that we preferred. And we tested the one that worked for us. It worked well, like all like the warm up scrims or whatever went perfectly. And then they like swapped them before game time because like I don't know why, because they were bad at managing, I guess, and that's why they're gone.
Yeah, I will give ESL one LAN. It was the first Leicester LAN. It was an invitational with 8 teams, and it was possibly the best event that I've been to thus far. And it felt like a true like invitational tournament, double elimination, 8 teams, which was very, very different from the continuing seasons where they only took the top 2 teams from each region, which was also a huge, like, I guess, like big sigh moment from the community of like, why did we go back to only having 4 teams at a finals when we had 8 teams go to a regional for NA, 8 teams go to a regional for EU, 8 teams go for the IEM Katowice, and then all of a sudden and then of course like the invitational, and then now we're down to 2 teams per region. Like it was another disconnect that we had with the ESL.
So like the end, like the last straw per se was just, so many disconnects and so many just recurring problems going on that they had the opportunity to fix, and that were voiced, that you guys eventually just got tired of it, and that's when the like roundtable meeting happened.
Yeah,
basically,
that is what happened.
Yeah, it was just like eventually it got to the point where it's like the same issues happen season after season. Eventually you get to the point where like the benefits of ESL, like the weekly pay and the LAN events, just wasn't worth the LAN events being like more often than not terribly ran, and like just the support tickets and being slow. We get like 1 or 2 matches streamed a week, maybe, if it was like our week to get streamed. If it wasn't our week to get streamed, then like Honor would get streamed. We get streamed every other week, and we only have like 2 matches. So outreach wasn't great. I don't know. It was just too many problems, not enough fixes, and eventually they just like the costs stopped outweighing whatever the saying is.
Yeah, well, it was just like, where's all this money that Oculus is supposedly providing? I'm not like it was a fault on Oculus. It was like, ESL, what are you doing with the money that Oculus is providing you? Which was also David Y's question in that roundtable. It's like all these resources, how are you allocating these resources? Where is it going? And why is the community upset, even though we are sponsoring this for the community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that wraps up for that question. My next question is just, what are your overall thoughts on Echo's evolution throughout the years, on gameplay, the community, the comp scene, and yourselves as players? Just, overall, what do you think?
I think the game's come a long way. Like I said before, 3v3, now we're in the 4v4. At the beginning, I do want to point this out because I feel like no one's really said it, and I'm not afraid to say it. But at the beginning, EU was always about the chain meta, and NA was always about the pass meta, and we thought that it was always going to be the pass meta, and now we're in a very, very, very heavy chain meta. So I'll say it. He was right. The future was chains.
You can cut that out of the video if you want. It doesn't have to be in. You can cut that out of the video if you want. It doesn't have to be in.
Yeah, you want to give them, you know what they're gonna say. I'll say this one for you, Long Gecko. I don't know. I really enjoyed this game for what it's been. I think it's been time well invested. Got to meet a lot of people, like the interactions with the people that you meet. You know, everybody likes to talk to shit online, but once you see somebody in person, all that goes away. You know you're all part of the same family, same scene, same game. Like we all have the same goal at the end of the day. We just want to play and have fun and make connections. And yeah, I mean, this has definitely been a great trip for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's been awesome. Like, I don't regret a second of it. It's been like, as much as people like to complain about like the state of the game now and lag and servers and whatever, it really has come a long way in terms of like support for the game from the devs and stuff. Like, people will always continue to complain because there's still like, we've still got a long way to go, but we've also come a long way as well. So it's been awesome to be part of it and see it grow.
Nice. Yeah. So I think that's it. I think, you know, you guys did a great job. Thank you for everybody for watching. Obviously, thank you guys again for coming on and agreeing to do this. So yeah, with that was the early days of Echo Arena and the evolution throughout the years with DashXL and Roxtytan.